We'll be starting the session in just a moment. If you have any connection or technical issues, try refreshing your browser first. If this doesn't work, please go to the Help Desk by clicking Sessions on the left, or click the Attendee tab on the right and search Help Desk to send a private message. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, and welcome back to the main stage. My name is Allison Ryder, and I'm a member of the CIA faculty in Hyde Park, New York, where I teach food safety, nutrition, food systems, and public health courses for our students. I have supported the CIA Strategic Initiatives Group in many different capacities over the years and have participated in MENUSO Change since its inception. So I am pleased to be back again this year to support this virtual conference as a moderator for our next general session. I hope you gained some great insights from the breakout sessions and grew your network with some context during the networking time, thanks to our networking sponsor, Kellogg's Away From Home. Those bare naked triple berry coconut energy bites they shared as a recipe inspiration sounded really good, so be sure to try those out. We are now moving into general session 4, entitled Restaurants and Food Service 2021, Rebuilding and Reimagining Sustainability Strategies. You'll be hearing from some fantastic speakers with different perspectives on rebuilding businesses post-pandemic in ways that still prioritize planetary and population health among many other competing priorities. One represents the fast casual sector, one represents a global business alliance focusing on sustainable development, and one represents the non-commercial sector. We hope that you'll walk away from this session with some inspiration and insights from thought leaders driving corporate sustainability strategies, and with a better understanding of the ripple effects that may come out of the first ever United Nations Food Systems Summit this fall. So each speaker will speak for about 8 minutes, and then I'll bring all the speakers back to the stage for a panel discussion and Q&A. So please be sure to share your questions in the chat. And I encourage you to read the full bios of our speakers on the MOC website. But without any further ado, I'd like to welcome to the stage our first speaker, Sarah Burnett, who is the Vice President of Food Values, Sustainability, and PR at Panera Bread, coming to us live from St. Louis. Welcome, Sarah. The stage is yours.
Hi, Allison. Thank you so much for the warm welcome, and thank you, MENUSO Change. I am so excited to be back with you. This is about my, I think, 6th or 7th conference, although I would love to be up in New York and enjoy everyone live. I'm excited to present to you, and in particular, talk to you about kind of how we fared through the pandemic and how we've held on to our beliefs and held on to our sustainability commitments as we've moved through that. And honestly, how I believe that the pandemic has strengthened those beliefs and changed consumers, honestly. And I'd like to share a little bit of that with you today, just for context for those who might not be familiar with the Panera brand. We are a bakery cafe concept serving soup, salad, sandwiches, as well as fresh baked goods. We have bakers in all 2,200 of our locations every night, baking fresh bread and sweet goods that really are the foundation of our menu. And we operate in the US and Canada right now. And we've been in business since 1987, so a relatively long tenure for our company. And one of, honestly, I would say the first fast casual in the United States, alongside our friends at Chipotle, and really started this new business. But what I would say is our business actually very much mirrors and sits squarely in between QSR and casual and fine dining. But during the pandemic, our business, especially being a very heavy dine-in business, very much mirrored the fine dining segment. So it was not the easiest year. But let me just talk a little bit about the perspective on 2020 and how we hold it here. If you could go to the next slide. You know, there's a lot of different ways for us to look at 2020. A lot of us want to say it's in our rearview mirror, we're moving past it. We all saw the memes, yay, 2021, what is that going to bring us? You know, we can think about it as the year of COVID. We could also think about it as a year where there was really the ability for us to finally recognize, you know, the systemic racism that exists in our communities and in America. You know, you could think of it as the year of politics, and all it was politics this, politics that. It also, in many ways, was fabulous because some could say it was the year of climate recognition and us opening our eyes to a changing landscape where climate is not only important now to us as a business and for business continuity and risk reduction long term, but it's also increasingly important to our consumer, which is really exciting. So there is, and also I would just say there is also the ability to see it as, you know, this was a year when inequity across the globe was more visible than ever, especially when we think about going into vaccination access, et cetera, in this year. And regardless your political or your personal views on any of those topics, we can choose to look at 2020 in different ways. We can also think about it in a way of it drives innovation, it drove new thinking, it forced the restaurant industry and our companies to really think about how do we do business, what matters most, how can we prioritize it, and how do we create a better future together. And, you know, with those silver linings is changing consumer expectations and behaviors. And so I'm going to go over just a few that I've seen in the past year and we're applying to our business. You know, the first one is this drive to off-premise combined with the rise of home preparation of foods. You know, more and more people are cooking at home. There was, you know, the baking revolution and lots of people baking at home, some to great success, some with many failures, and maybe they came to Panera to get a loaf of bread instead. But that puts a different pressure on our business, especially in the terms of sustainability as we think about the related increase in packaging, transportation, et cetera, those off-premise meals. There's diversity, equity, and inclusion awareness and advocacy, which is amazing and drives changes in our businesses and our communities. There's, you know, center of the plate plants. We saw some really amazing work being done at concepts, many of who are in attendance here today and speaking, which really is exciting. And consumers are no longer thinking about plants as the center of the plate as somehow lesser or not as satisfying. We were having a great conversation off stage right before this about cauliflower steaks at center of the plate and this delicious, amazing sous vide recipe. And I was really hungry. And the general consumer is feeling like that, not just people like us who are close to the business. Climate concerns have grown and there's more broad awareness of that and growing consideration of that. Purpose matters for businesses. Consumers are asking about it. They want to buy and open their wallet for brands that are purpose-driven and really looking to see what's their environmental impact, their social impact, how they're serving their communities each and every day. And then there's this broad consumption awareness as people continue to think about not only their climate, but broadly, when we've all sat at home with our trash and our how many things we've got delivered, there's a growing consumption awareness that as well informs our sustainability strategies long term. And these are all exciting and these are all opportunities for us as we think about our business strategies long term. But all of that is based upon who you are as an organization. So what I often get asked is, how did you hold on to your beliefs throughout the pandemic? What really matters to you? What I would say is, and I'm not going to go deeply on any of these areas today, but we have 4 core food beliefs that are foundational to our concept. And they are actually laddered back exactly to our mission, vision, and purpose statements as an organization, because they're foundational. And what we call these is, we call these one-way doors. We've walked through them, we've committed to them, and there's more granular commitments underneath them, around, cage-free eggs and raised without antibiotic chicken, etc. And those details are really critical, but all of these are foundational. They're commitments that we've said, this is how we fill our pantry, this is the food that we serve, and it's going to result in the customer experience and the best tasting food that we can provide at scale. And these are one-way doors that we will not go back on. And through the pandemic, what I would share is, it was really hard to do that. And for many of you, you probably felt this. And in a key example, we couldn't even find eggs last summer, let alone looking for cage-free eggs and additional sources. It was really tough. But what held us firm to that was our commitment to our mission and vision, and the fact that it tied back to the core essence of who we are as an organization and what we believe in delivers the best quality. And every organization's core beliefs are going to look different, and your priorities. But I would just share, these were things that were incredibly difficult, but we also became more resilient, and our supply chain became stronger as we built new partnerships during the pandemic. And so again, I thought that was an opportunity that we seized and we continue to leverage into the future. And one really exciting thing that I would be remiss in not sharing is, we did innovate during the pandemic, and we launched, on the next slide, we launched our Cool Food Meals initiative. In partnership with WRI, we were the first concept to use their Cool Food Meal certification and label on menu low carbon entrees. So it's really exciting for us to be able to translate this really big, complex issue of climate change down to the plate. And really put that in front of consumers and engage them in a conversation around the impact of their plate. And we saw incredible engagement. We saw purchase intent increase. We saw so many metrics that were really exciting from this. And we really played into this conversation. Again, consumers want to know where their food comes from, but also what's the impact of each and every buying decision they have. And this was an amazing way for us to translate that. And we honestly questioned whether we did that last year. And not just the work that we were doing behind the scenes and the technical work that we walked alongside WRI with, but we also said, is this the right time to have the conversation and engage consumers? And as I spoke about those consumer trends, we said, this is a conversation that consumers are looking for, and it can shift consumer behavior long-term. And so we can't hold back. And again, laddering back to our core beliefs, respect for the planet and reducing our carbon footprint is foundation for us. And so we said, we're going to move forward, we're going to innovate, we're going to do something new and exciting. And we encourage others to reach out to us if you're interested in learning more about this. This is a WRI's Cool Food certification, but we're huge advocates for them because we think this is amazing work and has a great impact on your business and your engagement with your consumer. And then lastly, I just want to address really quickly is how do we focus on all the right things? And especially when you have the noise, and especially, for example, as a small concept, to say, how do I break through all the noise and actually figure out what are my core beliefs? And it starts with a materiality assessment and some boring science things that, or some people would call it boring. I find it fascinating and I love it. But starting with some materiality and thinking about, one, what's the most important job that all of us do? Food safety is always the number one most important job that we always do. But actually then thinking to yourself, one, what is your mission, purpose, and vision? What matters to you as an organization, as a culinary team? But then what are your true impacts in the world? And what I would just say is there's a lot of things that you want to say yes to, but there's many more things that you have to say no to make room for those impacts, to say, I know I'm going to have the biggest impact by taking a position on this. And we've taken that position by taking a position on clean foods, by taking a position on climate, by taking a position on responsibly raised animal proteins. And other organizations might choose to focus on other areas where they're going to have the greatest impact. There's no right or wrong in a sustainability plan. There is a right or wrong for each organization based, again, on their beliefs and the impacts they can have on this world. But I am really excited about the impacts that all of us can collectively have as we all continue to build our plans and continue to have that vision that 2020 wasn't a lost year. 2020 was a year for us to grow closer together with our communities, grow closer together with our supply chain partners, and as a broad consumer base, actually recognize the impact that we all have on our neighbors. And that has extreme and beneficial implications for all of us as sustainability professionals. And Allison, I'm really excited. Thank you so much. I'm excited to get back together in Q&A in a little bit.
Thank you so much, Sarah. That was so inspiring. Panera has been just such a tremendous leader and innovator with clean, climate-friendly, nutritious, delicious foods. I love how you shared all the different perspectives of how we can redefine what 2020 was, and then what that means in terms of rebuilding into 2021 and beyond. So definitely excited to bring you back for some more Q&A in just a few minutes. So audience members, any questions you have for Sarah, please post those in the chat. Our next speaker, we had scheduled Diane Holdorf, who currently serves as the Managing Director of Food and Nature at the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. Diane is here, fantastic. We were hoping we would get you on there. So happy to have you, Diane, joining us live from Geneva, Switzerland. So the stage is yours.
That's great. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. It's so great to see you all. And really, really a pleasure to be here. It was super inspiring to hear so much of what's going on and to get the updates, for example, with what Sarah just shared. And the opportunity I have being here with you is to expand on these conversations a little bit and talk about some of the big transitions and work going on globally relative to what it means to understand and really shift our food systems. We're all working in very different and unique ways to create the transformation for the part of the food system that we work in and that we see. And this year, there's something really exciting taking place. The first time ever, actually, the United Nations is going to be convening a full summit to talk about the intersecting challenges and opportunities that it's going to take to transform our food system so that it can be good for all people and good for our planet. We know that the food system sits at the intersection of the climate challenge, of the challenge of nature loss, huge challenges of inequity, of course, big issues around health, the burdens of malnutrition and obesity. But to take a systemic approach to this, we really need to look and understand how we can think about these things systemically. Not all of us need to do that and can do that, but it's really inspiring that the UN is starting to take that and bring all of these stakeholders together. I'm going to share more on this, but I thought the best way to set it up might be to share a video. So if we can cue the video, I think that'll tell a bit of the story, and then I'll speak a bit more.
Food is more than just what we eat. It is the foundation of our cultures, our economies, and our relationship with the natural world. But today's food systems are fragile and unequal, and the pandemic has impacted the most vulnerable among us. But we know what we need to do to get back on track. We have an opportunity to build back better than ever, and we can set a course to make real change for the benefit of all people. Because a strong food system means
no matter your race, no matter your class,
women and men have equal opportunities to access nutritious food.
Every month, every day of the week.
Even during a pandemic.
We all have a responsibility to act. We must think and act differently. Because together, we can build a just and resilient world.
Where no one is left behind.
Where no one is left behind.
Where no one is left behind. Join us today.
So hopefully that shared a bit more with you about what the Food System Summit is attempting to do. It seems like there may have been a few challenges with seeing the video, but hopefully you were able to hear it. The reality is that the food system today has created a space where many people are left behind for either health reasons, community challenges, issues of equity, or even issues surrounding our planet. And that's the opportunity that we have to think about how our actions connect into the changes that we want to make and see on an even bigger level. The Food System Summit is going to be addressing these things in 5 different action tracks. There's one focused specifically on hunger and alleviating hunger. There's another action track working specifically on sustainable and healthy foods and what it takes to shift diets. The third one is focused on nature and climate positive agricultural production. There's another one focused on equity and human rights across the total value chains of our food system, and a final one focused on resilience. And cutting across all of that are issues around finance and around policy and advocacy. It's engaging everyone. In fact, it's the first time the UN is setting forward what they're calling a People's Summit. WBCSD is working together with many others to convene the private sector guiding group, advising the summit and the secretariat and what it means to really engage the ambition of the private sector in solving for the crises and opportunities of our food system. But equally, there's groups bringing producers together, youth together, indigenous peoples and voices, academics and research. There's all different stakeholders really coming together to understand what are the possibilities here and what can we each do. We're very excited to see how this comes together. There's a pre-summit that will take place at the end of July in Rome. It will be virtual. A little bit of it will be in person as we test in this post-COVID world what it means to be able to bring some leaders together. Importantly, that pre-summit in Rome in July is one to watch for, to think about the level of ambition that's being set for the summit itself. We as the private sector guiding group are creating a business declaration that we would invite business leaders from around the world, all steps and sizes, to sign on to if you share the level of ambition. And that will go forward into the summit itself, which will happen during the UN General Assembly in New York in September. Again, exactly how that will lay out is unclear, but we do believe that there will be parts of it again in person, because there will be many heads of state and government leaders together to understand what it takes at the government level, while we as business and private sector leaders come together to demonstrate what we're willing to do and contribute, and as other stakeholders, civil society, youth, come together to say, this is what we're all here and committed to do as well. So I'm excited to share this information with you today. I'm sure we can get into more details of it in the panel discussion, but know that it's an open invitation for everyone to bring every piece of what you do into the change that we know that we all want to see. So thanks so much, and I'll hand it back over.
Thank you so much, Diane, for sharing just that broad ambition of the UN Food Systems Summit. And I hope that we'll be able to engage with you a little bit more and ask some more questions specifically just about what this means for the landscape of American menus, how chefs and food service operators can get involved. So we'll welcome you back in just a few minutes. Thanks again.
Excellent.
Our final speaker is Chef Ed Brown, who is a CI alumnus who currently serves as the president of Restaurant Services at Restaurant Associates. And Ed is coming to us live from New York City. So over to you, Ed. Thank you.
Hi, Sarah. Allison. Thank you. Great to be here. I've also participated in most sessions since the beginning of Menus of Change, and just thanks to Menus of Change and CIA for having me, and all the good work that's being done. Also, shout out to Christina and her team for putting this technological challenge together. I'm going to just share a few slides with you. We could just advance. There we go. We'll start there. So maybe you've seen a version of this Venn diagram. Sustainability is most successful at the confluence of community, business, and environment. Business is at the heart of it, as it engages and influences people and communities and has the biggest impact on the environment. Purpose-driven business also has to take responsibility for better outcomes. Sustainability certainly drives the new economy, and opportunities are everywhere. You have to be looking. Food's a powerful medium that elevates culture, nourishes, and brings us together. In its current state, food system is a leading cause of climate change. Although COVID was certainly a disruptor in our sustainability efforts, we now need to return to this critical mission. The key to success is to integrate all of the pillars of sustainability across the decision-making processes as a starting point, not as an afterthought. Starting with a desired result and working backwards or reverse engineering is the best approach. Instead of focusing on what to do with all this waste, let's not create it in the first place. Smaller portions, produce less, purchase less, grow less, etc. Then deal with a much smaller amount of waste to begin with. Next slide, please. With that said, there's plenty of information overload, even misinformation, and a lot of confusion. Where does your food come from, and where do you want it to come from? Engage subject matter experts to find out, and then act responsibly versus not react to something that might not be accurate or helpful. Just because someone or some organization may have dramatized it, just be informed. Next slide, please. Our first job as a business is to make it easier for all to comprehend and engage sustainability practices. We've organized our efforts in storytelling into 2 buckets, people and planet, and within each 3 umbrella initiatives that support our sustainability efforts and help engage everyone at all levels. Next slide, please. At Restaurant Associates, doing the right thing is embedded in our company culture of care. We've been on a journey to create positive change in the food system and pride ourselves through our transparent actions, quarterly scorecards, CSR reports, etc. We collaborate with other industry leaders to make groundbreaking commitments as well. For almost 20 years, we've been working with Monterey Bay Aquarium Seafood Watch to protect our oceans, and most recently with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation to develop circular solutions for the future. We've also committed to reducing our carbon impact by combating food waste, promoting plant-forward menus, all while supporting local communities. Next slide, please. Along with our parent Compass Group, we've utilized scale and expertise, emerging as leaders to combat food waste by creating Stop Food Waste Day, a global day of action. Over 100 million participants have embraced it in more than 100 countries. In the US, over 20 cities and states proclaimed Stop Food Waste Day a day of action. Just 2 months ago, we partnered with nonprofit Food Tank to host an impactful virtual event that featured our clients alongside political leaders and subject matter experts. We had 26,000 people view the event live across the world and another 53 million social media impressions. Our groundbreaking food waste tracking tool called WasteNot is pushing us towards an incredible 25% decrease in food waste. That's really great for our planet and moreover, good for business. Next slide, please. It's important to support reducing food waste not only in the kitchen, but at the source with programs like Imperfectly Delicious Produce, which rescues produce that is safe to eat and delicious, but for cosmetic reasons doesn't make it to the market and often gets sent to landfill. Smart menu engineering and storytelling shines a light on these ingredients. Since 2015, as a company, we've rescued over 10 million pounds of produce. Next slide, please. In addition, we're rebuilding recipes, literally from the ground up, with the most regenerative ingredients. With these re-engineered recipes, we're able to utilize our scale to expand biodiversity and drive restorative change within the system. Proof that delicious can win every time across all day parts and trends while preserving our natural resource. Next slide, please. For the food waste that we couldn't manage at the source or in the kitchen, we need solutions to rescue it and repurpose it to serve those in need, and there are many. In less than a year, we supported Full Hearts, Full Bellies to feed 75,000 food insecure in the Bronx. At Common Pantry, we continue to support volunteers, product donation, as well as sponsorships. Next slide, please. I've mentioned local or micro level of opportunity, but not to be missed is the global macro influence that brings action and change. You heard Diane speak about the World Business Council for Sustainable Development doing amazing things to accelerate us to be a more sustainable world. We're super proud that our Compass Global CEO, Dominic Blakemore, is a member of this prestigious organization. Thank you for your amazing work, Diane. Next slide, please. At all levels, we certainly have a moral and ethical obligation to support sustainability, but a commercial one as well. Supporting our natural resource, soil fertility, and biodiversity is our future and that of our children and their children. Purpose-driven business is good for business. And I'm going to repeat that because we are in business, and purpose-driven business is good for business. No action is insignificant. Starting small is just that. Words are important. Action is impactful. Menus of Change is a great place to start and has been a great influencer. In the non-commercial sector, many contributors need to be engaged to achieve sustainable goals. All need to be willing participants as we begin to make behavioral change. Then it'll become part of everyone's culture and DNA. Listen, sustainability is a continuum, a mission that's never completed, but improves with ongoing efforts as long as we remain vigilant. Finally, delicious, nutritious, safe food should not be an exclusive privilege, which implies someone is excluded. My big takeaway from COVID is increased humility and empathy. It is time to democratize sustainable food for everyone. And what a great step towards a delicious future. I'll turn it back to you, Allison.
Thank you so much, Ed. I love what you said about just purpose-driven business is good for business. And I think what you said echoes so much of Sarah's perspective from Panera and how sustainability is such a core value deeply embedded within your companies and within your cultures. And you can see the overlap of from the non-commercial sector, the commercial sector, and then how Diane is working from the macro level to really to activate the entire private sector towards long-term sustainable development. So my first question, and there's a couple of questions in the chat here, is for Diane, of just a little bit more the nitty-gritty of how individuals and operators can get plugged into the Food Systems Summit activities.
There's so many great ways, actually. I think the UN has gone a long way this time towards trying to create access. They've got this great thing called a Food Systems Hero that everybody can sign up for. It was one of the first things I did when they launched it. And it does it's right on their website. And when you sign in as a Food Systems Hero, it adds your commitments, it adds your actions to the scale of what the summit is trying to achieve. But equally, it keeps you informed. They've got great updates that come out. It lets you know what the statuses of the many dialogues that are happening around the world, what the events are that are coming up. And as we get closer to the pre-summit and the summit events, I'm sure there's going to be a lot more information about both the virtual ways to engage and the direct ways to engage. We're expecting a large number of parallel sessions that are going to be open to everybody. It sounds like they've created a big pipeline, able to get huge number of participants. So that'll be a great way to listen and learn as well. There's also a whole series of Food Systems Summit dialogues taking place. There are national dialogues that are happening over 70 countries around the world, but so many independent dialogues as well. We've had several with the finance sector, with many of our member companies, and we've got companies who are members who are holding their own with their suppliers and their partners. So there's lots of ways to create the kind of conversation and lift those results of that conversation out into this broader narrative to inform what are the contributions, how do we scale the ambitions, where's the action that we need to take, and how can we work these things together. The final thing I would add is that there's a large number of coalitions either being accelerated or built that are open to everybody, and that's something that we can certainly share more information and follow up as well.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you. So if individuals just do a web search for UN Food Systems Summit, go to the webpage, and there's all of the activities and opportunities.
Yeah, UN Food Systems Summit 2021. I don't even know what the website is. It comes up all the time in my browser at this point, but it's easy to find.
Thank you. My next question is for Sarah and Ed can both respond to this. Sarah, in some of our earlier planning calls, you had shared your just really great insights on your approach to developing long-term strategy. Like within a company, how do you keep your mind set on goals 20, 30, 40 years down the road? Like, what does that look like, and how do you activate your stakeholders towards long-term goals around sustainability?
Yeah, I think that this is interesting, and especially as business people, as Ed said, we all run businesses. We all have an ROI, and we all have different shareholders who we support and investors we support. Most of the time, it's really easy to think in short term, and we're thinking about the next quarter, the next year, the next plan. What's the next budget cycle? And so it is really challenging to think about long-term progress. And what I would say, my only encouragement as we think about this is actually looking at your entire plan and all of your impacts long-term. So actually modeling out, for example, your supply chain and your supply chain growth over 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and looking at that and having the ideation on the real or projected numbers in 2030, in 2040, in 2050. When you look at, okay, business as usual, I'm going to grow at X. That means my supply chain, if I do nothing else, my menu mix is going to be this. And just using a really granular example, how many chickens annually, how many broiler chickens does that mean I have to put on the ground in 2040 to meet that business goal? And then start looking at the impact of that. And it really helps you set perspective on where not only your greatest impacts are, but also the need for us to take action now. Because if nothing goes unchanged, when I think about that impact in 2040, it can be a little frightening depending on the business that you're in. And so I think it's actually important to look at full-term projections and actually to look at sustainability and sustainability strategy just like you would a business model. It actually isn't any different than building out a full business model for an organization. So that's what I would leave it there. I'd be interested to see what Ed has to say.
Yeah, so I'll lead right off with my default answer to everything. Stay delicious. Think about delicious, start with delicious, middle delicious, end with delicious. Plan your menus, menu engineering. Don't default to being lazy and just continuing to serve our consumers and guests what we think they want or what we think that they know that they want. As a chef, I always prided myself when I had restaurants that I could go to any table and sell them anything that I wanted to, because I was the one who procured that food. I'm the one who cooked that food and created that food. And so who better to tell you about something delicious? Not that I want to talk you into it or be a salesperson, but they're at least interested to hear. And we have to take the time to make impactful moves that are good for the planet, good for wellness, and delicious, delicious, delicious will be headed in the right direction. It's almost that easy. Stay delicious.
Well said. In the final moments we have left, just if I could ask each of you really briefly to share one thing that keeps you personally motivated in this uphill battle with all these competing priorities. What keeps you excited in showing up and working towards these long-term goals? Diane, can we start with you?
We all need food. We all love food. We all share food. Some of us are more fortunate than others, and each of us has a role to play. And I'm thrilled to be in this type of panel and leading on these kinds of issues.
Thank you. Sarah?
I would take it to a personal area, which is when I talk to my own kids about food and they get excited about food and they want to hear the stories about food and where it comes from and why it tastes so delicious. That's what gets me excited. And as their curiosity grows, it gets me more excited for the future and for their generation and what they're going to eat as adults.
Beautiful. Thank you. Ed?
I think knowing that it can make a difference. You know, I'm a cook. I graduated the CIA 38 years ago, and here I am today. I'm in a position where I can help make a difference, and having that opportunity, that responsibility, is a tremendous opportunity that I embrace to help the planet, to help wellness, as I said earlier, to help democratize sustainable and great eating, to keep the world delicious and healthy.
Wonderful. We will end on that note. Thank you so much, Ed and Sarah and Diane, for such just a phenomenal discussion. And this, I know, concludes our last general session for today. So I will hand it over to you, Jackie, to wrap us up.
Thank you so much, Allison. And yes, thank you to Sarah, Diane, and Ed. Definitely an inspiring note to end this first day of Menus of Change on. We on the Strategic Initiatives team at the CIA have also been thinking about how the industry rebuilds coming out of the pandemic. As some of you may know, the CIA was founded in 1946, a kind of rebuilding time of its own with the conclusion of World War II and soldiers re-entering the workforce. That makes this year our 75th anniversary. And in honor of this milestone, the CIA will be holding a celebration on October 7th in Hyde Park, New York. And new and longstanding partners are invited to become legacy supporters to help keep the college strong for another 75 years and to support the anniversary celebration. Please visit the 75th anniversary website for details on this year-long celebration. Another way we are rebuilding is by bringing our flagship Worlds of Flavor International Festival and Conference back in person at the CIA at Copia in downtown Napa. The aromas, the food, the flavor discovery. We just heard Ed talk about deliciousness, bringing back the deliciousness. It's all back. And this year's theme, Cities of the Americas, appropriately looks at culinary disruption and renewal throughout the American continent, featuring street food and markets just as much as pop-ups and fine dining. All of this is happening November 3rd through the 5th, and we're giving our Menus of Change attendees who work in food service operations a special registration rate of just $625 through July 9th, so be sure to register soon. We're also bringing our 4th annual Global Plant Forward Culinary Summit back in person at the CIA at Copia, running April 26th through the 28th, so save those dates now. And this summit, Menus of Change, will be back in person again at our Hyde Park campus in New York, June 14th through the 16th of next year, just in time to celebrate its 10th edition. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, don't forget that all of the presentations, recipes, and recordings from this year's summit are available to you on the summit materials page of our website. You can find a direct link to the page by scrolling down below the video screen here in Hopin, and the password was emailed earlier this week. Tomorrow, we are diving into the role of the ocean in supporting a healthy, sustainable food system and the state of the science on varying carbon strategies. Plus, we'll have more great breakout sessions. Right now, we're headed to our networking reception. Be sure to pop into our networking feature where you can start a one-on-one chat with another randomly selected attendee, just like you might have done around the coffee station on the lower level of the Marriott Pavilion. And jump over to the Innovation Hub to say hello to our sponsors. Here's a glimpse of all of the cool programming happening there. For now, though, enjoy today's closing reception, and we'll see you all back here tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern.